Hey, what's going on guys, Tanmay, and in this video tutorial we are going to be continuing with our DOM manipulations that we've been doing in the past couple of videos. So in the previous couple of videos we've seen what is DOM manipulations. We've taken input from a text box, we've taken input from a radio button, and in this video what we are going to be doing is we're going to be taking an input from a select box, that is a drop down box. So let's first actually start off with the HTML coding of that drop down box and then we'll move to the JavaScript. So in HTML, in order to create that drop down box, you type in select and close the select box. So immediately you can see in the output you get something like this. Right now we don't have anything as options inside it, so we have to create that, and this is a very zoomed in version. So if I zoom out, you can see it becomes very small, so it won't be visible, so that's why I'm zooming in. So inside this select tag we have to add certain options, that is we have to add the values, right? So to do that we say option and the text inside the option, so I'm going to say simple snippets. So immediately you can see the first one we've got. I'm just gonna add 3 more, so I'm gonna say telescolonings and one more I'm gonna say mkbhd. Okay, so if I click on this you can see we have 3 options. Lastly we want a button, so what we'll do is on the button click we will alert or we will show the message which of the option is selected. So if telescolonings is selected, in the alert box we will get telescolonings. Okay, so this is the functionality that we are going to be doing. So for that we also need a button, so let's add that. I'm going to say click me, and just like what we've been doing in the previous couple of videos, I'm going to be using the on click event and I'm going to call a function fn1 which we still have to define in the JavaScript, but we also have to give id to the select box. So I'm going to say id is equal to select box, because we're going to be using the get element by id method of the document object to access this select box, right? Now one more thing that we have to do is we have to add values to these options. So right now what we've added is just the text that is being shown, but what we have to do is we also have to add the actual value which we want to access or show in the alert box. So that is done by using the value attribute, and then I'm going to say the same value, so just copy pasting this. Similarly your value would be telescolonings, so just copy pasting this, and lastly the value would be mkbhd. Okay, I'll just take the button on the new line using a br tag, and right now you can see on the click nothing is happening because we still have to define this fn1 function. So let's move on to the JavaScript and let's define this. So I'm going to say function fn1, and what I'll do is I'll say var select. I'm going to create a variable which would be referencing this select HTML element, right? So in order to do that, we have to use the document dot get element by id method. Inside this you have to pass the id of this select box. So this is something that we've been doing in the previous couple of videos. By now you should be very clear with this. And now that our select variable is actually an HTML element, you can see if you hover on it, it's an HTML element object. So what we want to do is we want to get the value of whichever option is selected, right? So in the alert method what I'm going to do is I'm going to say select, which is our variable which is pointing to this HTML element. I'm going to say dot, and there is a property of this select box which is known as options. So this property is basically a collection of all the options that are there in the select box. So that's why it's sort of like an array, because we have multiple values, right? So it's an array. Now we have to pass the index of that value which is selected. So obviously dynamically it is going to change, right? So sometimes I'll select telescolonings, sometimes I'll select simple snippets, and depending upon that the value should change. So I cannot give a static value, I cannot give 0, or I cannot give index value of 1 or something like that, right? So if I do that and if I say dot value and if I click on this, there you go, you can see I'm getting telescolonings, but this is not what is selected. You can see simple snippets is selected. So 0th value is selected, but we are getting the position of 1. So if I make this 0 and if I hit click me, I'll get simple snippets because index always starts from 0. But this is not something that we want, because we want this to be changed dynamically depending upon what we select. So here what we can do is inside this square brackets I can say select, which is again the same variable, and I can say dot selected index. So this is another property of this object which gives us which index is selected. So now if I click on the button, I'm getting simple snippets. If I change this to telescolonings, I'll get telescolonings in the message. and if I change it to mkbhd, I'll get mkbhd. So this is how you can add dynamic functionality to your existing code. You don't have to hard code the values. And this dot value, I hope you know, is exactly this value that we are giving over here. So if I change this to SS, even though in the option it is simple snippets, that's just the text that is being shown, but the actual value is SS. So if I click on this, you can see I'm getting SS over here. So yeah, this is the line of code that you have to type if you want to access a particular value in the dropdown, whichever is selected, and depending upon its dynamic nature, you have to use this selected index property. Okay, so this was it for this video tutorial. I'm gonna wrap it up over here. This was just to show how you can take values from a dropdown. So this is third type of DOM manipulation that we've done so far on a different HTML element. And yeah, that's it for this video, guys. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments how this video was, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.